Welcome back to another episode of The Last Storm, No Offense Podcast, whatever you want to call us, we're here for it all. We appreciate you guys joining us again. It's Dave, it's Mark, and our buddy George. We're glad to have you here, man. Thank you so much for joining us. We got to know you about a year and a half ago, I think now, and you were our first listener from South Korea. And we were like, hey, all right, man. So now you're back stateside. Good to have you on the podcast. Good to finally get to meet you, man. We're pumped up to have you here.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on the podcast with you guys. And yeah, it was in the middle of that Chris Paul season where we first had SGA. And yeah, that's when I first discovered you guys on my just searching around. And I was like, hey, here's another podcast with a completely different perspective on what we're used to hearing. And it was awesome to have that breath of fresh air is what I called it.
Well, thank you. We try to be different. That's the number one thing we try to be. And
we throw bows.
Which is good. We don't usually podcast together, but Dave and I are together, and that's great. So we got a 3-person podcast on 2 different microphones and cameras. So we hope that you guys are joining us on the video podcast or YouTube or just audio podcast. We're really glad that you guys are joining us. And like you mentioned, man, going back, we've seen a lot of different teams in the last couple of years with the Thunder. And now we're looking at another one. And we're looking at a different version of that player you mentioned with SGA. Like we saw that CP3 version. Now we're seeing him turn into full-blown first-team All-NBA level player. What's your impression so far this season? It's so early.
Yeah, it's still pretty early. It's hard to get a full grasp of what's going on. But, man, SGA has been balling. This guy is just so efficient right now. I think he went how many games before he even missed a free throw? And if he keeps that up, I mean, you heard him the other day, the crowd was giving him MVP chance.
Yeah.
And I think if he keeps the streak going like this, he'll definitely be at least in the conversation.
Oh, yeah. Top 5. And that's what we've been saying all along. That's where we look at Shai as a top 15 player in this league, and he's really proving us right with what we've been saying. And a lot of people were saying, like, they wouldn't pay the Donovan Mitchell price tag for Shai, and that's where it just gets crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear these people that are out there saying that Shai's not as good as this player, that player, and I think the thing that's so great about it, he's so different. Like, he's not that typical, point guard or shooting guard that we typically see out there. And because of that, nobody really knows how to assess his game. So they're watching this game for the first time, really, in the last 18 months. And watching Shai come into himself and the player that we know that he can be, to me is really impressive. And watching what he's done he's played 8 games, the first 8 games of his season so far is spectacular. I look at him and I say all-star level. Now, looking at the rest of the team that we have, for you, who do you pull out of that rest of the team that has to step up in the next 10 games in order for us to have above 500 record in the next 10 games?
For the guys to step up, for me, I would have to say it'd probably be one of the bigs or the guys that we call bigs right now. If JRE can, really come into his own and make an impression. He's solid fundamentally, but if he can just keep on moving up a little bit on each of the small things that he does, I think we can really, hit another level. I really like his game. I really like that guy, Robinson Earl.
Yeah, I agree. He's got a lot he can do. And last year we saw him play 2 distinctly different roles for the team. Early on in the season, he was really kind of playing that Poku role this season where he's a connector and he was playing a lot of high posts. And then he switched after he came back from injury into that wing position a little bit more and was shooting a lot of threes. And this year's been like
his corner 3.
Right. He comes in, he knows what he's supposed to do this year. And he's finding his shots. And then the question, I think you were maybe implying was that he can take it to another level. And he's shown that. But saying okay, I'm going to hit the open shot versus, okay, I'm open, give me the ball. And that's a next step maybe for his game.
Yeah, and you said bigs, so let's go back and talk about another big. We saw Poku have a big game. And it's something that Mark and I were talking about in past podcasts about, we've missed Poku. And then Poku comes out and this huge game that he just played. And he was part of that whole run that came back in that fourth quarter and such an integral part for almost every run that we saw out there. Yeah, he's making one of those two, knucklehead plays that you're like, but he's not even 21. He can't even buy alcohol and bars yet. So I'm not too worried about his production. To me, is showing enough right now out there that he's somebody that hopefully we can rely on playing that 5 position next to Chet in the future. Have you seen enough from Poku that you're like, okay, you know what, this guy could actually pull this off?
Yeah, definitely. Poku has really impressed me, especially this season. And, for being he's gained a little bit of weight since, we saw him his rookie year. And he set some decent screens for being a green bean, Yeah. I'm like, man, this guy, takes up space. I mean, he's 7'1", 7'2". He still takes up space. So those screens are going to be there. And when I saw him the other day when he was playing against Bull or the big
Bull.
Man, he looked very impressive compared to him. I was like, yeah, our guy can move. Poku can move around, and he's very agile, and he's tough. He doesn't take nothing. He doesn't take no crap.
Yeah, and he's starting to figure it out. And I think a lot of people are like, well, he should have figured it out by now. And I understand that, but the skill sets that he's trying to combine all at once are different. And I think, Dave, you asked a good question about him playing alongside Chet. That's a different thing, but somehow, even though they look like they have similar builds, they don't really have that overlapping games in the same way. I think they can play together in a more seamless way than what we've seen so far with Giddey and SGA, and that's something that still needs to be worked out. But that's the only thing that's going to work that out is on court time. And last year when Giddey went down after the All-Star break, that's what we missed out on, was a lot of SGA and Giddey time. And so we're catching up on that now. But in the end, that's a good question. Poku, Chet, is that a real thing? I think so. 4 and 5.
But look at, Poku's playing the 5 position right now. That's his main spot right now. He's playing that against the big guys. You're seeing JRE, he puts in 15 minutes here and there. You're seeing Mike Muscala put in the 11, 12 minutes there. And the rest of the bulk are going on Poku. I like this. This is what we've said it, prior years, that we wanted to see Poku transition to that big man that he can play, because the game is transitioning out of this typical big man down low in the post. Because if they're going up against Poku, who is, an efficient 3-point shooter, what's going to happen? Their big man's going to be forced to go out there and guard Poku, and Poku's going to be able to go around him and dish and do all these other things. And I think that's the thing about it, is that when you're looking at the team and how it's structured, Poku fits next to Chet, and we're seeing the benefits of what would have seen this year, right? We're seeing the benefits with JRE right now. We're seeing the benefits with, Jalen Williams, J-Will, when he's out there, or Mike Muscala. But I think you're just inserting Chet into that 4/hybrid 5 position, just like Poku's playing. And we don't have that typical guard or postman or big man that we have like most teams do. We have what we do is that zone defense, man. If you have a big man, you're not going against one-on-one against us, you're going 2 against 1. There's never a time that the big man's going to be in the post that there's not going to be 2 players next to him. And I think that's, again, just the structure and the defense and the mindset that Coach D has right now, that's so next level that people are trying to catch up and try to understand. But look at second youngest team in NBA history, and we have a top 5 defense out there. That's absurd. I mean, I've never heard of a younger team having more impact on defense like they do.
That's the hard part, right? Is the defense impact. Do you think that Poku and Chet can start at the same time?
I do think so, because I rewind a few years back when we had Adams and Cantor. Yeah. And those guys, we were, I think, number 1 or number 2 in rebounds that year. And we can. I think we can make it work, because these 2 guys, they have a little more offensive game to them. I mean, that's no knock on Steven Adams. I love the guy, but he wasn't shooting threes. I mean,
right. Some
Poku's
people
out
said he
there.
could shoot, but he wouldn't shoot. But either way, right?
But and Poku starting that position wouldn't be like an all time, because I think you see J-Dub starting that. I think it's a very fluent. There's obviously there are guys that we're going to look at in the past or in the future and be like, these guys are down starters. We know that they're going to be starters the whole way. But we only have 3 of those guys playing this year that I would say this guy is going to be a starter for the future. That's Giddey, that's Dort, and that's Shea. All the rest of it is up in the air. And I think that transition, when Chet comes in here, he's going to steal that position. But saying that Poku is going to be that starter, I think you're going to see a lot of J-Dub. I think you're going to see a lot of Poku. I think you're going to see a lot of Mike Muscala. I think it's going to be this fluent position in that 5 position to match up to whatever team we're playing against. But I do think that it's an intriguing thought to whether it's J-Dub in that 5th spot or it's Poku for the matchup purposes.
Those are so 2 widely varied looks so that you can give different teams and
you just fuck with them.
Right. What do you think about J-Dub so far?
J-Dub, he had the injury, so he was out a little bit. So I'm taking that game that he came back as kind of like, okay, you got to knock a little bit of the rust off. He wasn't gone that long, but understandably, if you got a big old, I think it was did he have a fracture?
Yeah,
Even if it was a bruise, you're going to be timid a little bit. If you had an injury before, like let's say if it's on your foot, you're going to be a little bit timid. So as soon as he got that, 1 game, 2 games out of the way, he's getting back to his flow. I really like his length too. I think it has a lot to help with our defense. You said we had top 5 defense, and it's because our guys are out there. They're long. Their arms everywhere. So many deflections. It's the most steals I remember seeing in a long time with this team. And I love it. I'm like very excited. I tell some of my buddies, like you guys said, I'm here in Georgia, so I talk to a lot of Hawks fans, and when I'm in the field, I'm watching the game on my phone. I'm like, hey, check out how my Thunder play.
Yeah,
and they're like, wow, that's an impressive team, and I'm giving him the names. He has no idea who none of these guys are.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, that's J-Dub, that's SGA. They don't even know like any of the guys. I'm like, yeah, he's our guy. So
yeah. And then you throw in a name like Ousmane Dieng, who hopefully we're going to see more and more of him, but he's got the length, like you mentioned. He's young, he's athletic, and nobody knows who he is unless you happen to be a fan of the NBL and the NBA or something like that. But, man, we're excited about this young crew, and we're watching SGA play All-Star, All-NBA, MVP chance raining down in Paycom, and we love it, and he deserves it. But then the rest of this team is still in this time where they need more time. And I see some people who are really itching to see that happen now. And I understand that. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about the Chet injury. Was when Chet went down, it was kind of like that feeling like the reinforcements aren't actually going to be here. And you're going to go back to battle with the same group as you had. And we're watching, and I wondered, is that what SGA wanted? But, man, has he ever answered that question by putting the team and the city on his back and then continued to just look at what his horizons, his eyes are above the horizon, and he's constantly getting better. I feel like in some ways, like he's obviously the best version of SGA we've ever seen, but he's also got a long way he can still continue to go. And that's what you put it all together. And we want to see a play-in. Yeah, we want to see the playoffs, but in the end, it doesn't need to be this year. It doesn't need to even be next year. We want to see this team built properly. We want that foundation to be enough. We know your son, he's a Thunder fan, and we want to see this team be like the team he can cheer for when he's 20. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
Man, when he's 20 and he has like a girlfriend, he's bringing you over to introduce you guys, and be like, hey, Dad, she's pregnant. And you guys watching Thunder at least, right?
Right.
But
there you go, Dave.
No, man, like it's crazy, man. If you think about like the structure of this team is like the fact that we can even talk about what's going to happen in 20 years, because like that wave of Shea, that wave of Josh Giddey in 20 years is going to be just finally gone, and it'll just be like, man, that was amazing how that run was, I think that's what's so impressive about what's happened in the first 13 years of the Oklahoma City Thunder is that wave that we had in that, first 13 years was amazing, or 11 years, was amazing. And then, boom, these last 2 years have been slowed down, but we know it's coming. I mean, we all know it's coming. Right. It's like it's.
Oh yeah.
Like this, the way the structure of this team is built is better than any structure I've ever seen any NBA team built. I mean, it's deep. You can go lineup for against teams that are across the board. You can go small ball. You can go big ball. Like big balls, but it doesn't really matter which direction you go with this team. Like you can keep it to the perfect, like what you want to do. And everybody attacks downhill. I mean, you get the ball and you're going straight to the middle and you're going down, or you're going straight to the baseline and kicking it out. Like there's so much structure to this offense and what we do and how quickly we move through the offense. Like the more time these guys get in it, the better and more efficient they get. They don't need to know where Shea's going to be because it's going to be like, I know he's going to be there because that's where it's at. Like Josh needs his time. And I see all these people that are being hard on Josh and saying that he should move to the bench. It's because, listen, the offense has been tweaked a little bit. People are moving around. He's asked to be in a different position that he's not used to right now. And with everything else that's happening, Josh is going to find where everybody's at. And when he figures out where everybody's is at right there, it doesn't matter. It's bucket after bucket after bucket. And Josh's money is going to be his assist game. We all know it. I mean, the other night we saw him pull down 14 boards or something like that.
That was crazy.
But like his offensive boards in the fourth quarter, like it was a close fucking game, and we don't score, it's over, and the ball runs out. Josh is over there, offensive rebound, and the next play Josh gets it and tips it out. Like he's all over the place,
winning plays, right?
Yeah,
winning times.
He's the one. Like we can say, Shea's the one that hit the three, this and that. But we all know if it wasn't for Josh Giddey's effort out there, there would have been no overtime. There would have been no double overtime, and that's the thing about it is that what he doesn't show up on paper all the time. And I think that's what gets me so frustrated when I'm out there, reading Twitter.
Don't read Twitter, bro.
And it's just,
it's tough on Twitter, man. It's a tough world.
It is, because we're at this point where we have the structure, but the one thing we need is patience.
Yeah.
We need to be patient. And it feels like these people who haven't been paying attention to the rebuild are now jumping into and they're saying, we need it now. This team is fun. We want to win now. And it's like, yes, they're fun, but it's going to take time. And patience is the key.
That's it.
I agree.
And when I see Presti standing on that sideline, I'm like, I want to think about it like he thinks about it. Not like, oh, we hit a bucket, yay, or they hit one, boo. I want to be thinking big, long-term vision, and that's where I'm at,
And it's like this. It's like, military talk. I was 13 Bravo, right? We were field artillery, okay? I'm not saying that that's indicative to how smart I am or anything else like that. But let's just put it out there. 13 Bravo is notorious for having unintelligent people there. So 13 Bravo, guys, if you're out there and you're listening, I apologize. But you guys know what I'm saying. You don't hand
Veterans Day, man.
Just shitting on his own buddies.
But you don't go out there, right? And you don't hand them one of those big old guns, right? And say, go shoot that way. Like there's a structure to it. And I feel like some of these teams that we're watching that people are like, oh, take this, point it that way and shoot it. And there's nobody like saying, here's, the coordinates to where you're trying to hit or anything else like that. It's just like, they'll figure it out. And you look at the Lakers. I feel like that's a prime example of what happens when you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know what the fuck's going on in the organization. And then you look at the structure of the Oklahoma City Thunder and you're like, okay, these guys have the instructions. They've been trained since day one. They've been trained how to take care of their money properly. They've been trained how to find a house properly. They've been trained all these other things. So all they have to do is focus on what? Hoops and playing. Yeah. That's it. And the fact that the Thunder are so next level and thinking about this team and working out and making sure that these players have guys that are going to push them, whether it's a trainer, whether it's, whatever it is, that is that extra it. That's what's so crazy about this team. That's what's so crazy about this organization. It's so next level, and you're seeing it in such a way that people are going to start taking our assistant GMs and start taking our coaches.
Have been for a long time.
But it's going to be at a whole new level because people are going to look at this and be like, I want to duplicate that, or I want to try to have something like that. Because, again, nothing like we've ever seen for the structure of this organization from the top bottom, to the bottom.
Yeah.
One of the things that we said that this organization lacked was just shooting. And I think it was quite obvious from last year as one of the worst shooting teams. And we said this team needs to get better in shooting. So what happens? He goes out and gets Coach England, and listen, it's going to take time. But Mark and I have talked about, how to go through the shooting process and have guys to make sure that they get, to that point where it's not this noise in here, it's I'm just going out there and shooting my shot. And that's it. And I think that Coach England's so good at that and making sure that happens. So you're seeing this organization get better in any way that they possibly can. And I love it, man. I that's why I'm such a big fan of it. You grew up in Tulsa area, and growing up there is it's very different from Oklahoma City, but we're all Oklahomans in the aspect of we cheer for our teams. We're very passionate for football, and we fucking love our basketball team. And watching an organization that people are going to admire, and people are going to write books about in the future because of the way that this organization is being run is truly impactful to us, because it means something. It means something because as far as we are out all over the world, and Oklahomans stretched out all over the world, like, you still go back to those moments, as being an Oklahoman, and especially having a team like that. Like, we don't have baseball, we don't have hockey, we don't have, anything else like that to bring us together like this, but we have 82 fucking games every fucking year to get together and be stoked, because that's our team. And that's what's so amazing about the way this organization has run things, is that's how they've made people feel. Like, that's how they make them all feel.
We're all family, man.
Yeah. And that's what's so powerful about it all.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about the structure, and you mentioned when we first started talking about the year with CP3, like, that wasn't like, a lot of people are like, oh, we don't want CP3. Like, we did. Okay. And it wasn't an accident that Presti let CP3 and SGA play together. And now we're looking at it and we're like, well, the year after that, you had George Hill and Al Horford, right? But then you're looking at, like, who are our vets this year? Well, you have Moose, you have Kenny Hustle, okay? But they're also a little bit, like, younger vets compared to, like, George Hill or Al Horford.
True.
We're relying on SGA to be the veteran, even though he's young enough where people are still saying he's 4 or 5 years away from his prime. But we're leaning on these guys. We're leaning more on Giddey, on Poku, and all of the dudes. We're just saying, like, look, you can be the veterans. You have to step up and lead. And Dave was saying something when we were watching the game. It was just like, look at Presti. Presti is watching the bench. Presti stands in the tunnel. He watches the game. But really, he can watch what the demeanor on the bench, the coaches, the assistant coaches, the players, the personnel, the training staff, all of that. Like, that's his responsibility. And he watches it, and he makes sure that the players have the right voices. The voices that are veterans now are the voices that were picked because they're the leaders that are going to lead not just this team, but this city into the future, the state into the future, because they represent the values that we feel are important to us. Hard work, do the right thing, do your job, take care of business, and you know what? I don't know how to else say it, but rebound and play defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we love in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think even the new jerseys that they just released, it has like one of the mottos or creed or something. I saw in the details that when I first saw the jersey, I was like, but then, I saw that Desmond Mason was the guy that designed it. I followed him for a long time. I remember him way back in the day when he used to be balling. Who did he play for? Oklahoma State. And, I was like, oh, man. And then all the little details, the 77, the 7 stripes, the 77 counties, the red dirt. I was like, man, they kind of grew on me quickly. Because I was like, wow. Yeah, it is a pretty cool jersey.
I wasn't going to buy one, but it's almost like they made me buy it.
Yeah. I'm gonna wait until the statement jerseys come out, and then I'll decide on
yeah, that's true. I do the
which
same
one.
thing. I always go all in on the the other jerseys, and I'm like, dang it. There's 600.
So you mentioned Desmond Mason, and I'm thinking, like, do you remember if he played on the Hornets when the Hornets were in town?
I think so. I watched that little clip.
Yeah, and then, he did, and then he played for the Thunder too.
And then the Thunder, yeah, he definitely played for the Thunder for sure.
That guy could fly. Like, he could fly. And he could hoop. He was one of the best that I can think of from Oklahoma State. You know, like just it's great to know that. I didn't realize it had something to do with that. So
yeah, he's an artist.
I'm gonna have to look up that article and kind of study a little bit.
It was on the official Oklahoma City Instagram or YouTube. One of those the video was on there. The official OKC Thunder page.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I mean that gets me pumped up because, I mean, anybody who understands Oklahoma, like they get it. They get it. So they get us, and we're all in on that.
Oh yeah, dude. It's about that passion. Like I said, like not everybody always starts off in Oklahoma, but it becomes home for them. You know.
Yeah, definitely. He had the similar story. It reminded me when he said that in the video, and I was like, that's just like the flat guys, you know.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Like you start off someplace else and you end up calling it home, and that's
and so many. I was born in Tulsa, but I didn't actually move there until I was like in 3rd grade. But all my memories, I grew up there.
Nice.
So yeah, I just I have a lot of childhood memories in New York. I actually started as a Knicks fan because of John Starks, believe it or not.
Yeah. Another Oklahoma State player, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's my hometown. He came to my 5th grade elementary school way back in the 90s, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah, it was awesome.
He was one of our heroes, bro.
Yeah.
And that time that he dunked over Jordan. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. He dunked over Jordan.
No, definitely. Yeah. The dunk.
Yeah.
It was the best thing ever.
Man. What? Man.
Dude, listen, I just want to say, there's a dunk that Trey Man did on the baseline the other day that I was like, if this guy had jumped a little bit higher, it would have been very similar. You know, like just the way that he spread his legs out, the way, like, Trey Man's got that it factor.
And he's got that little shifty where he'll go one way and go back the other and realize they can dunk on people all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like,
John Starks,
talented, man. He's got that little twitch to him. I watch him. I'm like, this kid got picked way too late. He should have went top 10 for sure.
He was a steal.
16 or 17 or something like
18.
that.
I think we got him at 18, and the Rockets gave us an extra pick to take him, and they went for Şengün, I think.
No, they gave us 2 extra picks for that first rounder, which we were able to trade essentially to the Knicks, right? Plus one other trash pick that we had, and pick up Osman Jang. Which is insane.
It's like that guy who like does the little things with a pee in the little cups and pee in cups. Nobody can see my hand, so they don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
Street Magic.
An arcade type game, right? And here we are.
In a mediocre draft, Sam Presti takes the 14th pick or 16th pick, and it trades it for 2 draft picks that were way down the line, plus whatever else he was able to get, and then he was able to make another trade, and those 2 trades that he made, he was able to get for the 11th pick. Like he was able to move up.
Thank you very much, and we'll be back in business soon.
And one of the strongest drafts I think we're going to be looking at in the future as being like, holy shit, like what we were able to get in this Thunder draft this last year is going to be insane, because obviously we're saying if Chet gets back and he's healthy and looks good out there, like people are going to talk about this draft and how we were able to pull off getting 3, enormously great, talented players with these 3 picks.
And Jay Will, you can't forget him. So you throw in there, like the fact that, like, I think probably the most like undervalued skill is taking a charge, and we try to make a big deal about it, but it's really like the value of it and understanding like positioning, and it's contagious. And I remember hearing him talk about when he was at Arkansas, they had a charge counter up on the screen, and they would count all his charges, and I feel like this is going to be something that's really going to turn the corner. So 2 drafts in a row, we end up with 4 players from the draft.
I know.
How we can't keep doing this. Like,
obviously, next year we only have our pick. And then that's not going to change. I think that's going to be, unless we make a trade out with one of the players, we are not going to get any more draft picks this year, because if you look at who we have, it's hard to even imagine that we're going to add anybody.
Exactly.
Because I want like who are we going to minus off this team? Are we going to take Mac Muscala and move him up to a coaching position? Are we going to,
too good still?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it like, there's so many different, is Baisley going to be moved out because, like who?
I hope not. A lot of people are ready to move on him.
No, but here's the thing though. The reason he's not getting a lot of playing time is you got to watch Poku. Poku's been taking those minutes, right? If you look at when Poku's not there, he's getting more minutes. And I think it has something to do with the whole aspect of like Poku's playing this game that everybody else is trying to catch up to right now. And I think that's what's so great about what's happening.
Yeah. How do you feel about Bazley right now?
So, okay, so we'll talk about Bazley a little bit because I'm a defender. I'm a Bazley apologist because I've liked him since he, made the team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on Twitter, they'll just down talk him to the point where it's almost like very disrespectful, not even as a basketball player. It's not even basketball critique. It's not, constructive criticism. It's disrespectful. I'm like, you're talking about a human being at the end of the day. And, and I really like his game. Actually, he's very athletic. He reminds me of a taller Westbrook athletic wise. And I think he's still young too. He's got some room to grow. And, I still see a lot of potential in him, even though we've had him on the team a while and people are kind of getting, a little tired of like him not growing as fast as they expect. But at the end of the day, he's still in his early 20s, I think 22 maybe or something like that, 23.
Yeah, I think he's
not exactly sure, but I know he's not over 25. So it's like you got to give him some time at least. We got too young.
His activity on defense, to me, that's where you can evaluate it and say like he's earning his playing time. We're not just giving it to him. And yeah, offensively, we would like to see some more, but we've seen glimpses. We've seen him knock down a couple of threes in a game. His drives have become more productive. Early on, I heard somebody compare him a little bit to like Jeremy Grant's drives.
That's a good comparison.
I think that's a good comparison, but I'm at that point where I'm like, I don't know if like with Grant, when we got him, right, it was like we were willing to wait a few years, and in those years good things have happened. I'm just curious about, are we at the end of Bazley's time within our ecosystem? And I really hope I'm wrong about that. But sometimes as players start to fall out of the rotation, it's like they either have to like understand what's happening and adjust, or they'll find themselves like Isaiah Roby, which he's in a good spot, and I hope he does really well. I mean, if I was playing in the NBA, I'd hope to have a chance to play for a coach like Coach Pop. So it's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, is it headed in that way? And if it's not, it's going to become because of him being incredibly active on the defensive end and almost turning into a bit like a Dennis Rodman type player and understanding that he can impact the game, every game that way consistently. The offense, he can't always control whether or not that's a positive impact. I don't know. I'm getting carried away.
No, but you're right. Like you said it the best too. You said defense. If he's the defensive minded set, he's going to be fine. And that's exactly how I feel. If he focuses on his defense and he really hyper focuses on that, he could be that Dennis Rodman, Draymond Green, whatever type of, crazy mentality that it takes to get it done. And I think that's the thing about what we're seeing with him is that we're seeing this desire that he wants to do whatever it takes to get minutes. Because if he didn't and he was still focused on his offensive game and focusing on that one-on-one style that he started off playing with us, that's the thing you guys got to also remember is that he was that last pick in that Westbrook era, in that Chris Paul era, whatever you want to call. So he was that last pick there. Like, we're still talking about the isolation and stuff like that. We wanted to transition out of that, but he was one of those guys that we didn't know much about. As time's going on, you're starting to see the defensive impact. And I think if you look at Poku, or you look at Bazley, you look at, even Mike Muscala, who has a great defensive impact out there. You look at these guys as just defensive players that come in and also hit down shots when they're open. And that's all they do. What else do you need from a role player? Like if you're looking at them as a star player or as somebody that's going to come out and average 20 points a game, then you just don't understand what's going on with Bazley or Poku or any of these other guys. Like, let them grow with inside their game and then just let it be. And like every coach, as much as I want to say, I feel like there's sometimes that I feel like, oh, I can make a better call than that. Yeah. But guess what? He's younger than us, right? Than Mark and I. And he's out there making game-like decisions on the fly, and that's playing time, that's matchups, that's all this other stuff. Like, and you expect him to make it though perfect every single time? Come on, he's growing with his team as well. And I look at Coach D and I say, young coaches in the league, there's nobody else I would rather as a young coach in the league. And I look at him and I say, like, the way that he has that discipline of guys. And I go back to when he grabbed Poku and he said, stop this, you know, like Poku and him, or not Poku, Baisley and him were getting in a little hustle, you know, and he told him to stop it and he got in his face. Like that was the moment that I felt like there's either all the guys are going to get behind him or turn their backs on him. And we saw this movement of guys get behind him, even Baisley.
Definitely.
And it was just like, he's got the heart, you know, like how many other coaches have that in the league that are young, that understand that?
I think it has to do a little bit with, I believe he was with the organization, got promoted from the blue.
Yep.
And the guys already knew him. They were calling him Coach Mark. I heard him, some of the guys were like, oh, Coach Mark, that's our new coach, you know? And so they kind of already had a rapport with him. And, you know, I think they really respect him. Even though he is a young coach, the whole team is relatively young. So they still kind of look up to him as I mean, I'll take me, for example, not trying to say I'm a, you know, NBA head coach, but I joined the Army pretty late. So my peers were all, you know, when we were all privates, and that's who I, you know, we're allowed to hang out with is, you know, your privates and your specialists.
And by the way, guys, your privates are your lowest ranking military Army guys. Okay. I just want to make sure all your Australian guys out there, privates are military ranked guys. Just throwing that out there, man.
Yeah. So,
by the way,
you know,
happy Veterans Day to all your veterans out there that are listening as well.
Definitely. So they, what I was going to get to is that they kind of looked up to me just because of my age, because I was older, even though we were on the same level as far as rank. And they, you know, they often asked me for advice. And then, you know, fast forward a little bit later when I'm with my unit, I even had, you know, sergeants, NCOs, asking me for advice too as a part of first class and you know, just life advice and stuff. And I'm like, hey, you know, this is what I think about this. But you know, that I think that kind of shows where Coach Mark has the benefit of being a younger coach, even though he's still older than most of the team, because we have such a young team.
Exactly. And by the way, everybody, you just got promoted to E5, which is a pretty amazing deal because it takes a special type of person to get to that sergeant level. It's a lot of shit. And I only got to E4 specialist, and you know, that's as far as I really wanted to go, because I looked at all the sergeants and I looked at all the work and all these other stuff they had to do and responsibilities, and I was like, oh fuck no. So then I had 3 kids, so I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. But anyways, you know, like, congratulations, first of all. And I know I already told you that, but you know, getting to that level is pretty amazing, and in life and understanding to, you know, whether you decide this is going to be your career or not, you know, like you have a brotherhood. And I think that's what's so important. And you see this brotherhood inside of the military. And one of the things that I miss, you know, desperately is, you know, when you get out, you know, you have this, like, where's my brothers? You know, like, they have my back, you know, and I think that's one of the things that you see with this Thunder team, though. You know, you see this, like, deep brotherhood, and like I mean, it's powerful how they've been able to somehow grasp what, you know, the military has taken hundreds of years to understand how to pull off. You know, like, if you think about even the Romans and trying to figure out exactly how to pull this off and not understanding it, but seeing how the Thunder have been able to pull this off and to make this team a brotherhood team is.
Did you just compare them to the Romans, bro?
I mean, I'm just trying to pull in anything I can right now.
I'll say there are a lot of parallels when you look at, you know, the way the Oklahoma City Thunder likes to run things, and then the way that things are run in the military as well, as far as having, like, certain type of characteristics that they want their people to follow.
Exactly. A standard.
So, there's standards. And
then you got the different hierarchies, which, I mean, you know, sergeants, which I look at, like, you got Kenny Hustle in there, you got Mike Muscala. You look at those guys as
100%.
You know, you're like your
NCOs,
sergeants,
man.
NCOs, exactly.
Yeah. They run the ship.
Yeah, and I think it's important. You know,
wrong branch of the military.
No, but it's all, you got it though.
It's all good. It's Veterans Day. We everybody love, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that. I don't know, man. It's just fun to watch, and as we're getting to that point where the end of the show is coming, but I feel like with this team and with the community that has been built for us by Sam Presti, it's powerful, and this is not the only time we're going to have you on the show.
No, for sure. We're going to have you back.
Listen, like Mark and I, we don't do podcasts together, so it's really awkward for us. So, but and you can see in the background, guys, all of our fishing stuff strung up there. It's pretty impressive. But we are in a small town hotel in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So otherwise, I wish we had a nice hotel that had a chandelier and shit like that. But that's not how Mark and I roll. So, but we appreciate you coming on the show.
We do, for real.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, for sure. I will be in Oklahoma for Thanksgiving time. I took 2 weeks off, so I will be out there.
I got something to tell you. You need to write Oklahoma. Write me after this. I've got an email of somebody you can write. I'm going to try to see if we can't get you some tickets there for a game. Because Oklahoma...
He's got connections.
Oklahoma Thunder people really like to make sure that they get people to games. So let's make sure we get those emails to you so that you can write them and see if we can't figure something out.
All right. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds
man,
awesome.
And we just want to make sure we once again, we've already said it, but we want to give you a shout out, man. We appreciate your service. We appreciate your dedication to this country, and man, just your friendship, it means the world to us, and knowing that you're back here stateside, man, that makes us really happy. So we're glad to have you on the show, man. We want to have you back soon, for sure.
All right, yeah, no problem. Hey, if anybody wants to follow that Twitter account, it's no longer, what was it before? Lucky Thunderhat.
Yeah.
It's no longer that. I changed it to Thunder Homer, and I'll just do this real quick, just to let the people know. Apparently, just rooting for the Thunder to win, you're considered a homer now. So I was like, I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. I'll change it.
Easiest homer ever.
I love it, man. All right, Thunder Homer. We're going to try to make sure we put that handle in the subject or whatnot, whatever we call it these days.
Tweet.
Everybody, we thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, we share passion about this team, the city, the state. And we can't wait to get back and talk to you guys again Monday. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you then.